going on, dudes and dudettes? So yes, Duke once again is adding to their future in the class of 2023. They did pick up a 5-star point guard / shooting guard in Tyrese Proctor. He's from Australia, one of the more top, better, like international guys coming out of high school. And he's also already kind of playing professionally down there, which I thought maybe you couldn't do that, but I think it's okay now just because of NIL and all that stuff. But as long as he's already graduated high school and all that and meets the requirements to get to Duke, I think it's fine. But it's kind of weird that if you're good enough to already play in that league, why not just stay another year down there getting paid and just forget Duke? And you're most likely going to get drafted. But at least hopefully he will be coming to Duke. Looks like another big get for John Shire, and we'll be talking more about Duke later, but yes, congrats to Duke. Then the Lakers were officially eliminated from the playoffs the other day, which was not surprising just because they had lost like 7, 8 straight, something like that. It's pretty bad, especially against teams that they needed to beat. And everybody knew this, especially this last couple games were going to be a tough stretch, but they didn't win any of those other easier games when either LeBron and AD were healthy at the same point or one of them was healthy. So whatever, it's a lost season. Had to get over it. And then also found out today, I think with like 2 or 3 games left to go this year, that LeBron James is officially cutting the season right now. He's ending it. I guess he's still dealing with that knee and whatever else he's dealing with. And I guess he's not eligible for a scoring title, which is better because I know people wanted him to come back for these last couple games just to be able to get that. But it's also like, why if your team is eliminated from the playoffs? I mean, he is averaging a little bit over 30 points, which is pretty crazy for a 37-year-old, shooting 52% from the field, over 8 rebounds as well. It's pretty crazy stats, but I think we kind of all knew that he was sort of stat chasing just to be able to cover his ass, in my opinion. But I mean, at least we get this over with to finally get to the summer to see what the Lakers can do. And actually, I've heard some pretty good news that some teams, especially like the Charlotte Hornets, might be interested in a trade for Russell Westbrook and to get guys like Terry Rozier or Gordon Hayward, something like that, a couple of those players back. It might be pretty good for the Lakers in the end, so we'll see. And they also did waive the Lakers' Trevor Ariza. I think they were just more doing it to be able to sign one of their younger guys to a longer contract, and maybe just to let Ariza go, sign with the playoff team if he wants to win this year. So they might be doing that to sign Wenlin Gabriel, who's been playing very well for them. They could sign him to like a 2 or 3 year deal, which is nice because they have a little bit of extra money. So we'll see. Then the Chargers, and especially their head coach, Brandon Staley, I think this is one of the first pro days I've seen him at officially this year, but they did go down to LSU to check out the cornerback Derek Stingley Jr. and a lot of the other guys out there. Stingley has been considered the past 2 or 3 years as the number 1 player in this draft, but 2 years ago he had an injury, and then this last season he kind of had some more injuries and COVID, but didn't really pan out the past 2 seasons. But his first season as a freshman, they won the championship, and he was like their best player, or second, third best player, which is pretty crazy. But he is falling a little bit, so maybe the Chargers think they can get him if they can get somehow close to the top 10. I know it's going to be tough, but it would be freaking insane to have him with Derwin James, J.C. Jackson already, Asante Samuel Jr., who was a rookie last year, who played very well. Just have all these guys, and maybe also with the possibility to sign Stephon Gilmore, who's another top talented cornerback out there who hasn't signed in free agency for some reason. Chargers could be crazy, but they got to do it because you got to defend Devontae Adams, anyone else that the Chiefs get, or Patrick Mahomes, really. Russell Wilson as well, and whoever he might get. But yeah, overall, if the Chargers can pull this off, it'd be like them getting Derwin James in the draft a couple years back, where somehow he fell because of his weird injury, but he became an all-pro starter in his first season, kind of like how Rashawn Slater was this last year at left tackle for the Chargers. So good things popping up, but we'll see how that goes. That'll be pretty big time if the Chargers could pull that off. Then the Chargers also signed a wide receiver / kick returner in DeAndre Carter. I know he visited this most recently. He didn't leave with the contract, but apparently they did agree to a deal. So I guess they didn't want to bring back Andre Roberts, who did fill that position of kick returner for them pretty well, but he is a little bit older. So I guess they went with a little bit younger and a guy who's been doing it for a bit. So we'll see what he can do. Then there were a lot of people on ESPN, including ex-Duke player Jay Williams and all these other people speculating that, especially if some things were happening with the coaching for Duke, a lot of assistants leaving and maybe affecting the recruiting, possibilities of those guys leaving Duke, that Coach K might come back and salvage the season to be able to keep those guys for Jon Scheyer next year, or at least the next year or two. But Coach K turned those rumors down pretty quickly and efficiently a couple of days after. So he is not going to be returning, and luckily Jon Scheyer is going to be helming it. But yes, pretty soon after Duke's loss, they did end up losing one of their top assistant coaches, and they're pretty much their top recruiter in Nolan Smith, who's an ex-player, but been doing pretty well on the bench for them. And sadly, he did go to Louisville, which is in the ACC. So we will be competing with all these other recruits, and hopefully he doesn't, convince any of these other guys to go over there that he was recently trying to get to Duke. But I know it's a good story for him to go back to there, because I believe his late father played for Louisville, which is pretty cool for him. Comes all full circle. So good luck to him. He won a national championship for Duke, so I love him till death. So good luck to Nolan Smith. But Jon Scheyer did make an interesting hire. He hired ex-Elon coach Mike Schrage, I believe that's how you say it. But he was hired as a special assistant to Jon Scheyer. So as of right now, with Coach K leaving and Nolan Smith, and that those other assistant coaching spots aren't filled up, so you have to find 2 more guys. We'll see what other people he can find and who are good recruiters as well. But I guess it's good experience for this ex-Elon coach to be under this new Duke head coach, so that'd be pretty cool for him. And then, yeah, of course, after the national championship game, I think it was Monday, I didn't watch it, I just waited to know the final score, and luckily it was positive in my favor, because Kansas ended up getting that victory over North Carolina. And it was just even better to find out that North Carolina at some point had a 15-point lead, and they still ended up losing the game. So that was a little bit more icing on the cake. But I think everybody knew that the national championship game that weekend was Duke and North Carolina, and this was just going to be whoever wins best. But obviously whoever coaches best, and it being Hubert Davis's first time for North Carolina. It's crazy if he was a first-time head coach and got them all the way to the championship game, but Bill Self was the better coach from what I saw, and they got that victory. And of course, Duke now has to play Kansas, and I think it's in November, one of their first games of this season coming up. So be very interesting to see what Jon Scheyer can do against the national championship team. But yeah, very, very good things to look forward to later this year. And then when it comes to the New Year's 6 games, all those games played on January 1st, and right before that, the Final Four and all that stuff for college football. Apparently, according to Fox projections, they have USC reaching the Rose Bowl. So apparently they're the winner of the Pac-12, and they're going against Michigan, which it's always been a usual game for the Rose Bowl, USC Michigan. I've luckily been able to watch the last 2 times they've met there in the Rose Bowl with USC victories. But yeah, it should be pretty interesting to see if they can do that. Obviously, Michigan has lost a bunch of players as well, but I don't think they would be as good. I think that's why they weren't in the Final Four. I think Ohio State was, so they were second in the Big Ten. So overall, still a pretty tough team. Hopefully USC can get that many victories. I know people are projecting them 9 or 10, but to get there, you probably would have to win 11 or 12. But overall, if that does happen, then it's a pretty positive thing for USC. So looking forward to that if it does happen. Then a stat came out for USC basketball where they said that over the past 7 years they have reached a win total of 160, which is the most that the school has had in basketball at any point in their history, which is pretty crazy. And it's been fun to see because I've been able to watch this program that was always looked at badly, never really got much attention. They had a player or two here get drafted. I mean, DeMar DeRozan was the more recent guy that had gotten drafted really high, then eventually came OJ Mayo, who's out of the NBA. But yeah, never really that many guys until recently where they've had like, you know, first round picks the past 2 or 3 years, something like that. And they could have another one coming pretty soon next year. So definitely very happy about that. Good to see at least USC's going positive in both basketball and football finally. So definitely looking forward to their futures. Then Talen Horton-Tucker of the Lakers, he is one of my favorite players. They ended up playing, I think it was Golden State yesterday, and they got the loss as well, but he ended up scoring 40 points. So I don't know what you can really take from that. I kind of feel the same way whether it's him or even if LeBron James did that in a loss, it still doesn't mean anything to me. I know that a lot of people were excited over it. Maybe it helps him get traded easier this time around next season or in the off season because he can score points, but who knows how much of that was in garbage time and how much was he playing against the better, because I think even Klay Thompson had 33 points as well, so it wasn't really that crazy of a matchup. But yeah, take with that what you will, Lakers fans, but it's just whatever to me. Then miscellaneous news to end this off. Sum 41's frontman Derek Whibley said like the main catalyst or the main like inspiration for this new double record. I didn't just found out reading that article that it's actually going to be a double album, but apparently he wanted to do something for his daughter who he recently had, and he always thought like, well, he was going a certain way with the type of music he was going to do for this next record, but then he realized that he wanted her to grow up with some type of music that he listened to, some type of regular pop punk stuff that his band Sum 41 used to do in the early 2000s. So I think the first album, which is called Heaven, will be more of that type of style, which is awesome because I always love that type of music that they do, because they do get into some heavier like metal stuff now. But also the second part of the album, Hell is what they're calling it, is going to be more of that heavy metal, crazier type of mixed stuff with Sum 41, which is still good. I like most of it, not all of it, but yes, it's still pretty entertaining just to see. You know, it's always good to see your bands try and do something different and they're still relevant in a lot of genres, because rock is not just one thing, there's a lot of separate parts to it. So pretty cool to see. So definitely looking forward to that Heaven and Hell, or Heaven or Hell, double album. Should be pretty cool. Definitely looking forward to that. So yes, thanks for watching, people. Like and subscribe, comment down below. Let me know what y'all think. Have a great rest of your day. Bye. Bye on.